What's up, RotoGrinders? Good morning, good afternoon, depends on where you are listening. I am TJ Zwarich, your host for today's MLB Crunch Time, joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. First up, we got twin number one in the matching polos, Dave. Cheese is good. Potts, how you doing, Dave?
Doing all right. Yeah, super weird little slate. But I mean, man, it was. Sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, DFS is dying." I mean, it's a 3-game early Thursday, and like the big DraftKings tournament filled like 2 hours ago. Like we're doing fine.
We are doing fine, and some of us want even bigger, even more contests so that we can, because a lot of these are filling early. And I know somebody who would have some interest in that is a guy who plays a lot of UFC. Speaking of contests that fill pretty early, Squirrel Patrol, John Breslin, how you doing, Squirrel?
Good, yeah. No, that's exactly what I've seen. Seeing like the UFC contests, especially like the higher dollar ones. Like I now have to reserve them the night before, if not like earlier in the week. Like I don't know why they don't make them bigger, but it is what it is. We are dealt these slates we're dealt with. Yeah, same thing. Early morning baseball, like it's gonna fill. Like people get into the office and are like entering those contests. So gotta get them in early.
People enter the office and think, I do not want to work today. Let's see. Oh, daytime baseball. I don't have to work today. And hopefully we can help you make a little bit of money just in case you get fired while you are not working and playing some daytime baseball today. Before we get into things, it's a good time to remind you that there's never been a better time to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium with NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, and MLB. And we've got an option for whatever level you're looking for. Get yourself 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That's a savings of $250 instead of buying 6 individual months of combo premium. You can also get your first month off of RG Premium for $40 off for a limited time. Those that want to test run without fully diving in, you can dip your toes in the water with our 3-day pass at $19.99. Check the links in our description for more info. And if you're playing today's 3-game slate, you should be checking out SimLabs. It's the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs, now available for NBA, PGA, and MLB. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing. You can access SimLabs with an RG Premium subscription, so be sure to grab one with that discount we just talked about. Cheese, why don't you give us a little overview of the 3-gamer, take us into pitchers, and of course, people watching, smash that like button. We'll get the first Spidey Bomb at let's say 25 likes. Let's do it nice and early today. First Spidey Bomb 25, second Spidey Bomb at 50 likes.
Yeah, the pitching is terrible, which is going to give us just like absolute massive chalk on Ryan Pepiot. I call him Pepio because that sounds better to me. So he showed like huge upside once this year. He showed upside a lot of times last year. Like he's probably a pretty good pitcher, but certainly like on any reasonable size slate, it would be absurd for him to be like 80% out. But this is not some regular size slate. It's a 3-gamer and you need 2 pitchers. If you take him out of the mix, I'm not sure you get double-digit points out of 2 pitchers. So personally, outside of full angel stacks, I'm just playing him and not worrying about it. It's just not one of those slates where 2 of these guys are going to score 30 points or even 20 points. It just doesn't matter. So I'm playing him, and I actually ended up with I didn't play a ton today. I don't have any full angel stacks. I wouldn't argue with you if all you did was play full angel stacks and avoid the one heavy chalk pitcher just because that's how MLB works. That's not what I'm doing. I didn't play enough to get into that. So I have lock button on Ryan Pepiot. Past that, if you're either fading him or you need your SP2, like the Tampa lineup makes Griffin Canning tempting. And the old Griffin Canning stats make Griffin Canning tempting, but present day Griffin Canning makes him really hard to go anywhere near. So I have 0. I fully get it. Like today could be the day he gets everything back, but like his velocity's down bad. He looks horrendous. I'm out personally, which leaves me with either Kenta Maeda, who also does not look like his old self, Jack Leiter, who is a child who walked 13% of batters 2 years in a row at Double-A and allowed a bunch of home runs and will be pretty popular too. Carlos Carrasco, who is worse than the bad Griffin Canning. I mean, this guy is not good anymore, period. Or either a Red Sox opener who gets you 1 inning for 4K, or a Cooper Criswell who theoretically might not even be. He's probably the long reliever, but we don't actually know that for sure. There is no rule that they have to pitch him today. I think they do. I think he gets 3 or 4 innings. So personally, I'm playing Pepio 100%, and then I have a mix of Leiter, Criswell, and Maeda, and that's it for me.
Squirrel. I was looking at the tags and I saw you might have some interest in some Criswell for tournaments. What are you doing today? Get different in tournaments?
Yeah, so it depends on your risk tolerance. But I like Criswell. I would say it's the time for the most part, I'm basically just doing the opposite of what she said for tournaments, and he kind of alluded to that himself. For tournaments. You can get as crazy as you want, and it's 3 totally unremarkable baseball games. With like 3, 6 kind of unremarkable pitchers. I do have some confidence that Criswell is going to be the long guy today for Boston. Like there was at least a manager thing, like a Joey Cora quote out there where he said he expects Criswell to get the bulk of the innings, or something like that. And he has been a starter, so. On this slate, and going to like the projected long guy is not something I do all that often. Like people always ask about it. And it's not that often that I go there, just because, there is a lot of uncertainty. There's a whole lot of uncertainty everywhere on this slate, but the ownership's not really reflecting that. Like I think Pepio could even get more than this, 50% ownership we're seeing on FanDuel. That's just silly. Like that's one of the most negatively leveraged things you can see is like a unremarkable pitcher on a small baseball game slate, where everybody's just, oh, well, who's the top guy? I guess Pepio. And everybody's going to be playing Pepio. Like potentially more than 50% of the lineups. So I'm just going to hope that he has a terrible game. And I'm playing some of him, but like when I'm playing him, I'm playing some crazy loaned hitters that could potentially get there in a Marian Pepio lineup. So yeah, I'm just basically doing the opposite of what she said for tournaments. It's like a pretty binary slate, which is what you would expect with only 3 games.
And this is why, as a student, I like to think of the DFS game of both of yours, because I've been watching your content and reading Cheese's content long before I was a analyst here at RotoGrinders. I think this is why it makes a lot of sense that my MME build, it's what she said. I have 100% Pepio. I locked him in, and I have 150 different lineups with just him. My single entry has about the same entry fees as my MME total, and it has Criswell, it has no Pepio, and it has a full Angel stack. And so those are I mix and match the 2 of those today. Hopefully one of them hits pretty big. Let's talk some stacks, and then we'll go position by position. We will finish off by taking some QQs. First from the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. Second from the YouTube chat. We have reached enough likes for Spidey Bomb number 1. Let's get us up over 50. And we got Spidey Bomb 2. Get me up over 75. And we got 3 Spidey Bombs on a Thursday morning for the people, Thursday afternoon on the East Coast. First Spidey Bomb today is Tristan Cassis. Kind of a chalky DFS play, but I do not understand this guy's home run odds today. He was my second favorite overall person to home run in general today. And you can get him for plus 775 on BetMGM, plus 750 on Bet365, plus 700 various places across the board. Tristan Cassis, Spidey Bomb number 1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then I'm
pretty
the host
job.
again. I forgot once again that I'm the host, and so I need to keep this conversation going. Squirrel, sticking it with you. Who do you like for stacks today?
So I do think there's some logic in going with an Angel stack against Pepio. His chances of success just don't like match up to that ownership. And he's the best pitcher on the board by a margin, but it's not a huge margin, right? And I think the ownership's just going to gravitate right towards there. And so I like going with the Angel stack. I like going to Texas stack. I think they've got just, a lot of power. Dallas Garcia, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, always like a great stack that has power, fills like the middle infield spots that can be otherwise difficult to fill sometimes, depending on the slate. So like Texas, like the Angels, kind of like Detroit. They're facing Jack Leiter, the child that Cheese was mentioning. And like Leiter could be an excellent major league pitcher. I think he was number 2 pick in the draft.
Yeah, he'll be good one day. Probably not today being that day, but he'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think he's got like high strikeout rates in the minors, but also like high walk rates too. And like for major league debuts, I think tend to be where that can really come out to. So yeah, I like the, I don't always play the Tigers, but I think there's an argument for them today against Jack Leiter, and I think like nobody's going to go there. Like nobody ever likes to play Tigers, A's, Angels even. Tend to see really low ownership on slates. Like there's only 6 teams. So yeah, I'll play some Tigers. I think Boston, if there's chalk, is going to be the chalkiest, I think. And I kind of have them in the middle. I don't love getting to Cleveland. And so if they're the team that gets to me today, and I'm going to have some Cleveland stacks, but I probably like them least for the ownership. And Tampa Bay is kind of above Cleveland in terms of like for the ownership, where I like to go.
Cheese, how about you? Who are you prioritizing for stacks today?
Detroit, far and away my top stack, not even kind of close. What I'm really prioritizing is not stacking at all. But if I am stacking, it's Detroit 1, Texas 2, Tampa 3. And then I think Boston, I love Boston because of Carlos Carrasco, but I think they're definitely the chalk. And when you look at the lineup, like other than Tristan Casas, like it is very underwhelming. So I don't love them as chalk as a stack. And same with Cleveland. Like I think those two pick up a lot of ownership. And I just don't love them. So Detroit, Texas, Tampa.
We're playing relief pitchers. We're playing Detroit. It's a fun Thursday for some MLB DFS. The first QQ from Gregorius the Wise in the Discord chat is just QQ. Who am I playing on this slate? We already have 50 likes, so it's time for Spidey Bum number 2 with the theme of going with Detroit. We're going Kerry Carpenter, Spidey Bum number 2 today. And let's get up over 75 likes. As soon as we hit 75, not only will we get Spidey Bum number 3, but I will ask Squirrel and Cheese for their home run picks as well.
For whatever it's worth, Kerry Carpenter is my highest owned bat on the slate.
There you go. Kerry Carpenter, highest owned bat on the slate. Anytime Spidey and Cheese line up, it usually goes pretty well. That's when we get into double dome territory. Cheese, before we go position by position, in case people didn't have time to read the musings this morning, why in particular are you going with the not stacking method today, and how are most of your lineups shaking out?
Like on the small slates, with everyone stacks all the time, everywhere, like you have to hit everything so exactly perfect. And with the possible exception of Texas, none of these teams have 5 batters who are good on their own. Like you need everything to time out exactly perfectly with all the hits. And even if it does, 4,000 other people in your tournament have that stack with very close to the same group of guys who are doing it with singles and doubles. So I think like just playing the best players gets you different while playing the best players.
Makes sense. So on that note, let's go position by position, starting with the catcher position. Who are the best players today?
Oh, at catcher? That's a great question. Bo Naylor, I think, is the best play But for me, it's Jonah Heim. I think Jonah Heim and Renee Pinto are the two guys that I'm using the most. Jonah Heim because he's actually good, and Renee Pinto because he's just going to be like 1/10 of the ownership of Connor Wong. And Connor Wong is a better baseball player than Renee Pinto, but I've never seen a world where a 40% owned Connor Wong makes sense. Like I'll play an 80% owned pitcher. I'm not going to play a 40% owned Connor Wong.
I need people to get over 75 likes, and that's all I'm going to say because I got a maybe hot take. Squirrel, who you playing at catcher?
Yes, catcher. It's pretty spread out. For the most part, I am just going with the guy in my stack here. Yeah, I think Connor Wong is like the best play, but like none of these guys are hitting like higher than 5th in the order. So like Connor Wong's kind of the best play. Like Jonah Heim's probably right after him. But like, yeah, there's no reason not to go with like Carson Kelly. For the most part, I'm just trying to get a little bit different here, like within my stack. So if I'm using a chalkier pitcher, then I'm maybe going with like Carson Kelly. If I'm going with like a less chalky pitcher, then I'm maybe going with Connor.
And let me just, it's a small slate. We have not much to talk about. If you like just digging into weird stats and smallish sample size stats, Renee Pinto's barrel rate against righties is like Aaron Judge. I mean, honestly, it's 16%. Like really. So like, why are you playing a 40% owned Connor Wong? There you go.
I'm letting it out early for the people. Get over 75 likes for Cheese and Squirrel, but Spidey Bomb number 3 is Renee Pinto. I bet that one this morning, and I was excited about it just because I was looking at that barrel rate. I was looking at that ISO. It's a limited sample size, but he's been absolutely smashing so far. Canning's been terrible, and he's been terrible with reverse splits, even more so. So Renee Pinto is Spidey Bomb number 3. Take that, Dean. Tell me I don't get creative and off the board enough with Renee Pinto.
Hey, can we say I don't remember if it was you or Stevie, but me and Dean had the same homer call yesterday, and you want to be mad at Dean. He went yard. Don't be giving Dean a hard time. You
don't give me a hard time. That's the only reason I'm giving Dean a hard time is I need to give a rebuttal because he's always moving goalposts and coming at me, and so that's why I got to return the favor. But I also bet Marcell Ozuna to home run yesterday, so it's not that I was thinking it was a bad call. It's just Dean needs to get a kick in the leg a little while every now and again. Who are we playing at first, Cheese?
So Tristan Cassis is the chalk. And like, so this is exactly the reason why I'm not stacking. Like I can play him as chalk, but most people playing him have like 3 or 4 or 5 Red Sox. I probably have 1. And it's him because this is not a great position. I do want to point out we have Tampa called up Austin Shenton, who has power for sure, and he's basically minimum salary on both sites. I think he's like, we don't really need salary that much, but it's still at a position like first. If you're not playing Cassis, you're just kind of goofing around. I think Josh Naylor is quite interesting as well, but I prefer to pivot to Spencer Torkelson in the high end or just go cheap.
Squirrel, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking at like the DraftKings positions, but like I've got Spencer Torkelson as my like best projected first baseman, and he's coming in like 7th in ownership. And then I've got like Miguel Sano, like just first base eligible on DraftKings. I've got him as my second best first baseman, and he's like, well, he's not even on this list, because it's FanDuel. So yeah, and those are the 2 guys that have like the best home run props out of all of these guys. So I don't know why they're so far down in the ownership mark. Like 1 home run on a small slate makes a huge difference. So yeah, I like Spencer Torkelson, Miguel Sano. You make an argument for Yandy Diaz hitting leadoff. got a good chance of getting an extra at bat. And then Tristan Casas is probably going to be the higher owned guy. I mean, Boston's fine today. Yeah, they're playing in Fenway Park, good park for hitters. I don't think there's any reason to be rostering them at this, at the ownership we're seeing. I hope this ownership holds and at Boston then maybe underperform.
All right. Sticking with you, Squirrel, take me over to second base.
Sure. So I think Marcus Semien is probably the best play. And but like not at 50% ownership. I'll be under the field, but he's like I've got him as as we do as the best second base play in terms of projection. Andres Jimenez is probably next best. He's probably the Indian that I'm avoiding the least, if that makes sense.
Guardian.
Squirrel said it correctly the first time. Cleveland Guardians. They changed their name several years ago, but we follow.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm not gonna catch on to that in my lifetime. I know it's somewhere in there that they changed the name, but it's gonna slip out. So let's see. Jose Caballero, I think hitting fifth for Tampa Bay is another guy that you can play at second base. I do think we've got to be like it's hard because I think Jimenez and Semien are the best second basemen. I'm not in a 150 lineup sample. Like I'm not going to be rostering them at 50%, and I don't think you should either. And I think there's a strong argument in single entry not to be going there, just because if they are going to be 50% owned, that's way too much.
Cheese, how about you?
Yeah, Jimenez is kind of like Connor Wong. It's like, sure, he's probably the best play and for the salary, but it's like that's weird chalk even on a small slate. So, I definitely prefer Semien if I have the salary. And then I really like Emmanuel Valdez, which I learned this morning. I've been typing his name for a while. Like it's Emmanuel. It's E-N-M. Annual. It's not Emmanuel. Which makes me like him even more, honestly. Like he's actually got some real power. So I do like him as a cheap guy. And feel free to throw some Colt Keith in your Tiger stacks.
Colt Keith, the number 2 batter in my Diamond Dynasty team on MLB The Show. Who are we playing at third, Cheese?
So very obvious chalk with Jose Ramirez, one of the best plays on the slate. And third base dies out quicker than any of these other positions. So that's the chalk I'm more likely to play. Like I like Jose Ramirez chalk way more than I like Connor Wong or Andres Jimenez chalk. So I am playing Jose Ramirez. I will say, so Squirrel mentioned Sano at first. Like I do have Angels bats in my Pepio lineups. Like this is a slate you can absolutely play a power bat against your pitcher. Sano's not really the guy I love there, but if he accidentally doesn't strike out one time, it'll be a home run. So I don't mind that. Josh Smith is fine. I weirdly like Gabriel Arias as kind of an overpriced pivot, but I don't think he'll end up being sneaky at all, which makes me like him a little less and makes me prefer something just weird that I don't like Matt Vierling or Gio Urshela.
Squirrel, how about you?
So like Jose Ramirez, probably one of the guys I'm most under the field on. So it could be a quick day for me if he hits 2 home runs. The guys that I like getting to in this place are the aforementioned Miguel Sano, Anthony Rendon, probably going to get an extra at bat, with the Angels. They're on the road, so that they'll get those guaranteed 9th inning at bats. And he's facing Ryan Pepio, who will be popular. So, there's some argument for playing, being way over the field on Anthony Rendon. The other guys are all kind of just other guys. Probably my favorite of the remaining guys is maybe Josh Smith. He's hitting 5th. He's got the platoon advantage, but I feel like he gets pinch hit for as well. Also, I guess Ezekiel Duran, also with the Rangers, is somebody that I like. I always find myself over the field on. So.
Shortstop position, sticking with you, Squirrel.
Sure. I think Corey Seager is by far the best guy here. 50% is a lot. 52% ownership. The pivot that I like going to, and guy I'm over the field on as well, is David Hamilton with the Red Sox. He's very cheap and he can steal bases. He's hitting a little higher up in the order than he normally does. Part of that is Rafael Devers being out of the lineup. So yeah, I like going to Hamilton. Hope he gets a couple of steals. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if I'm going to give one other name, probably Caballero again with Tampa Bay.
Cheese, who do you like in short?
Yeah, so I like playing Seager on DraftKings more, because that salary is just so easy to get on FanDuel that it is going to be just silly ownership. But on DK, it's pretty hard to get Semien, Seager, and Garcia all together. I mean, it's quite doable, but it's not easy. So I think Seager comes in a little less ridiculously owned on the DK side, so you can just play the best guy. And I agree with David Hamilton being good as a punt. And again, that kind of goes to I'm not really stacking Boston. So if he's just the guy who steals 2 bases and scores a couple runs, but the team doesn't go off with home runs, I'd rather just have the one guy. And that's it. It's just, there's really nothing else to talk about here.
All right, take us out to outfield.
I guess the cheaper Red Sox are chalk, like Duran and these guys. I think they're higher owned than like Mike Trout and Adolis Garcia. It's a weird lineup. Like Yoshida would have been chalk. I'm not sure that Wilyer Abreu becomes chalk in his place. I think he should. I think he's actually a fine play. I really don't love Jarren Duran chalk when you have salary sitting around and you can just play Mike Trout or Adolis Garcia. And I like Kerry Carpenter more than any of them anyway. I like Evan Carter a very good bit. I like Mark Canha and Riley Green, not quite as much as Carpenter, but all those Detroit outfielders. Jose Siri is on my list of random one-offs. Mickey Moniak is in some of my Pepio lineups as the one power guy against him. So I'm fairly well spread out, but mostly underweight on Duran is probably the main thing that I am.
Squirrel, how about you?
Yeah, I'm avoiding the chalk less here in the outfield where you get like three selections. And, I think it's harder to really avoid Mike Trout when you're trying to find 3 outfielders, better than him. But I do, I have a reasonable amount of the chalk, so like slightly under the field, I think, on the chalkiest guys of Duran and Trout. May actually even be over the field on Adolis Garcia. I'm using that ownership to get to guys like Abreu, who I think, stepping into the 3 spot for Boston. I like Riley Green a lot. Again, he's hitting leadoff against a pitcher that might have control issues. So we might see that lineup turn over a few times. Maybe not. Maybe Detroit gets shut down. Maybe later just comes out of the gates, on fire and, looking like a number 2 draft pick as a pitcher. I'm willing to bet that maybe he's got some control issues in this start. So yeah, hoping that Detroit lineup turns over a few more times, or at least, one more time than we would expect. So like getting to some Riley Green, like playing some Taylor Ward, I like getting to the Angels, being over the field on the Angels in general today. And I think people aren't going to click on that Taylor Ward name when there's all these other big names or maybe more popular stacks out there. So he's the guy I want to be over the field on. And then if I'm going to give one more name, maybe Mark Canha or Canha with Detroit. So yeah, like being over the field on Detroit.
All right. Before we start taking some QQs, let's get some home run calls here. We got 10 minutes left to lock. If you got questions, get them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. And then I will be, of course, next going to the YouTube chat. Squirrel, drop some nuts for us today. Who are the Squirrel's nuts?
I will drop Mickey Moniak, I think, for a home run. And let's see. I'll go way down the order with Ezekiel Duran.
Way down the order with Ezekiel Duran. I like it. Cheese, how about you?
We'll go with a high end, a mid tier, and a cheap with Adalis Garcia, Harry Carpenter, Austin Shenton.
All right. Let's take some questions here. I misread the question from Gregorius the Wise at the beginning. It was not who am I playing this slate. It was why am I playing this slate. So
that's a much better question than who.
Cheese, we'll start with you. QQ, why am I playing this slate?
It's day baseball. It's one of the best things that we have here in America, or even up north with our friends. It doesn't get much better than day baseball.
All right, QQ from TJ Zwarich, Mickey Moniak and Josh Smith, or Anthony Rendon and Kerry Carpenter. Squirrel.
I'd actually go with the second one there. I think you're getting actually more at bats with Rendon leading off. So yeah, go with the second one.
What about you? What about you, Cheese?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I so much like Kerry Carpenter. I go that way.
Who has pinch hit risk when a righty from Boston comes in? So who would you be most worried about getting pinch hit for Cleveland? Geez.
So I'm going to say that like it's common knowledge to everyone that a righty's coming in. So I don't like the real answer is David Fry. And it's conceivable they give him the one at bat in Poland, but like I'm gonna go with they understand who's pitching today, and this is their lineup.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as well. Switching over to YouTube chat. Cheese, I'll stick with you for this one. Actually, we'll ask both of you because we got the time. There's not that many questions. What's your take for leaving salary on the table for a small slate like this? And how much are you comfortable leaving on the table on DraftKings? Cheese, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely leave salary on a slate like this. Like you should have no concern with leaving $2,000 or $3,000. I think most of my lineups have $700 or $800 left. But I mean, if you had $3K left, I wouldn't even bat an eye at that for a second.
Squirrel, how about you?
Yeah, I leave more salary on the table in short day baseball slates than any other DFS thing. And sometimes you just have to. Like there's maybe only so many lineups you can make that are even over the salary cap. And
you can't spend the salary without going mega chalk.
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez, Pepio, Trout. Like yeah.
Are we concerned about the weather in Boston? Our mystery meteorologist friend has it listed as green with some scattered showers. So personally, no, I'm not worried about that at all. Cheese or Squirrel, have you had any qualms about that at all?
I wonder if it just means like, the weather edge shows it pretty bad for hitting, like a -25 for homers in a 32 game sample. Like I'm not worried about like a rain out, if that's the question, but I am worried. I mean, slightly worried, like this is the chalk game for offense and it's not really good power hitting conditions. So if that's the question, I would say, yeah, I see a little concern there. And I like the other games better already.
Geez, I feel like your answer to this is probably going to be just pick the best players and the format does not matter to me. But what do you find for FanDuel? Do you think you're getting to the most for this slate? Would it be like a 3-3-2 or a 4X if you're not fully stacking all that often?
I mean, there's really not. It's just that's the best number. I think I probably have 4X more than anything else because if you can do a 4-man stack, and if you do 4 one-offs that don't have the chalk, you're still different. But I really don't think there's just hey, this is the best lineup. Like if I only had one lineup on FanDuel, I would probably just go 2-2-2-2 or 2-2. You know what I do? 2-2-2-1-1.
2-2-2-1-1.
2 Tigers, 2 Rangers, 2 Rays, a Red Sox, and a Guardian.
I bet that Red Sox is Tristan Cassis. Squirrel, who is your favorite cheap value piece for a FanDuel single entry?
Let's see. Say like David Hamilton. I mean, I mentioned him, but he fills the shortstop position. Like if he gets multiple stolen bases, that's a thing that like starts to break this lead a little bit at shortstop potentially if like Corey Seager doesn't hit a home run. So go with Hamilton.
I'll leave this one with you then. For it doesn't say the format; it says Hamilton or Seager for last guy in.
Yeah, what a question. There's not really a right answer there, right? It just depends on your risk tolerance. Like neither answer is right. If Seager hits the home run, then Seager is the last piece you want in. If you want to play it safer, go with Seager. If you want to shoot for first and maybe take out half the field, if Seager goes 0 for 4, go with David Hamilton.
Yahoo GPP, what do you think about doing a 4-man Tampa stack? Cheese.
It's fine. But again, I lean towards not stacking because of that exact reason. Like there aren't 4 Tampa bats that I just love. So I think it's fine. But I'd also rather just play a bat I like it. Like I wouldn't put Harold Ramirez in if I could play Adolis Garcia just to make it a stack.
Rendon or Sano on FanDuel, Squirrel?
That's a good question. I will go with Sano.
Cheese, will Connor Wong hit 1 grand slam or 2 grand slams?
The problem is after Valdez hits a grand slam, there's nobody on base. So 0.
Great point. That is it for questions right now. So if you got any more questions, get them in. We got 2 minutes left to lock here. I have no qualms with getting out of here a little bit early, but I want to still make sure that people get a chance to get all of your questions in. So I will give long-winded sentences that drag it out long enough for people to type. DKGPP is Jalen Duran. Is Jason Duran from the Boston band?
He's asking if Jaron Duran is from the band with his brothers.
Oh, 80s band. The little heart on YouTube was covering 80s on in the chat. And so it looked like Boston. And I was like, is he from the Boston band? What does that mean? No, he is too young. I don't even think Jaron Duran was alive for any portion of the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
He better like them though. That should be his walk-up music. It might be. I don't know what his walk-up music is.
We'll look
if anybody
into that
knows, let us know.
And get back to you. Why the hell are the Texas Rangers underdogs? Jeez.
I would not have guessed that they are. Are they?
They are. That's the squad ride bet today, actually, is Texas Rangers money line at plus 100.
Okay, so it's essentially a pick'em game.
Pretty close, but it's a slight favorite to Detroit because of the rookie pitcher, as Steve is noting. And Squirrel, I can see those gears turning. He is very quickly trying to get a bet in on the Texas Rangers right now.
I don't even see them. I mean, it's pretty even money.
I mean, I would favor Texas slightly for sure, but
because Leiter could give up 6 runs in 3 innings, but Texas could still score 10 on Kenta Maeda and be absolutely cruising in this one. We have reached lock. We have covered all of the questions. That'll do it. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. We will, of course, be back tomorrow with some more baseball. Squirrel, are you on Blender Show in the morning talking MMA tomorrow? I didn't look at the schedule. I just know that's usually a thing Fridays.
There is no UFC card.
No UFC card this weekend, right? A little bit of a Saturday producing.
Are you going to go out and pick a fight just so there's something going on Saturday? You should.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I'll let people bet on it. See, like when you're going to sign me a salary, maybe get some other people in the mix. We'll make a whole card of it.
Yeah. Let us know where you're going. I'm going to send some people over there and just start throwing things at you.
Yeah.
We'll go Liam versus Billy because those two have both fought before and they can't, I don't know what their weights are, but we can't put them against anybody else because they both literally knew how to fight. But Squirrel against Mike is going to be a fun main event. I need to know some heights and weights before I handicap it, but that's going to be a fun one for sure. I thought you were going to give me some rebuttal there, Squirrel, but I guess not.
He was thinking about it. He can't even argue.
Let's get out of here on that note. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with some more baseball. On behalf of myself, Cheese Squirrel, Steve behind the scenes, you have been crunched.